Hello everyone, this is Jeff Blankenship with HEB Instructional Technology, and this is a quick overview of using Google Slides in Google Meet. So you're probably familiar with Slides. It's very similar to Microsoft PowerPoint, but it's a web-based version of that program that's available to you through your Google Suite environment. And I'm just going to show you how you can use this tool during a Meet session to provide content to your students. So some of the things that we'll be covering today, and most of this is specific to using slides in a presentation mode, is how to use the Q&A tool, how to use the notes tool, how to use the laser pointer tool, how to use closed captions, and then I'll cover a couple of other things specific to using video links and embedding video content within slides, best practices for that, and also I'll show you guys how you can publish your slides presentation to the web so that students can view the content in kiosk mode. So we're going to go ahead and get started. All right. You can see that right now I'm currently in my slides program. The quickest way to get to slides, if you're not there already, is to go through your Google Drive environment. So you can see right here I am currently in my ClassLink environment. I just go to Google Drive. After a few seconds, the magic's going to happen. I am redirected to my Drive account, and just up here in the top right hand corner you will see that you have access to slides. Okay, you can also get to it from your New button just by choosing New and selecting the Google Slides option to create your presentation. Okay, once you have that presentation created or started, you're going to go ahead and give it a name, do all the things that you would normally do with your files, and you're just going to start putting your presentation together. We're not going to spend a lot of time discussing how to do that today. I'm assuming most of you guys know how to do a slides presentation or a PowerPoint presentation. It's very similar to PowerPoint, so if you're familiar with PowerPoint, you're going to be able to do what you need to do in this environment as well. I did want to point out a couple of cool things that you'll want to be familiar with if you've never used them before. For example, down here at the bottom of my screen, you'll see I have presenter notes. Okay, so what I can do is I can open up and expand my presenter notes and type notes to myself that I want to use during my presentation so that when I'm making a live presentation, I don't forget to mention those things. Okay, if you're not familiar with using presenter notes or speaker notes, what you would do is go up to View, and you'll see that there's a checkbox down here under View that says Show Speaker Notes, and that will expand or hide that section. So the tools I'll be showing you are specific to presentation mode. If you've never used presentation mode, you'll notice that there's a present button just right up here in the top right hand corner. When you select present, it goes into full screen mode, and this is what students would see if you were presenting this screen in Google Meet. So you'll see right down here at the bottom, when I move down to the bottom left hand corner, a toolbar will pop up, and I have the ability to play my slide presentation. I can also advance my slides. I can use this drop down to move to specific slides within my presentation. So this is all basically for navigation, these first two sections right here. But you'll notice that you have some additional tools that you may not have paid attention to before right over here. The first tool we're going to take a look at is Q&A. So you'll see that when I select it, this pop-up window comes up on my screen, and I can choose my audience tools or my speaker notes. So in an ideal situation, you're going to be presenting with two screens. If you're presenting from within the district, you definitely have a dual screen format. And when you select these tools, whether it be the audience tool, the Q&A tool, or the speaker notes, you wouldn't want this to be on the screen where you're actually recording. So if you're in a dual screen environment, you're going to take this particular window and you're going to move it to another screen so that your students do not see it. Okay, but if you, for now, I need to have it on the screen just so that you guys can see it. So you'll see I have my audience tool right here, which is the Q&A tool. And when I hit Start New, this really cool thing will happen. I don't know if you guys saw this in the background, but this popped up on my screen. Okay. This is a web address that students can effectively type into any browser that they're using to access your presentation. So if they're on Chrome, if they're on a Chromebook, and they're watching you present through Meet, they would be able to open another tab to type this information in, and they can use it to ask you questions during your presentation. So obviously you have the chat feature that's available to you in the Google Meet environment. But this is a little bit slicker. Whenever they type the questions, it pops up over here in the right hand corner just for you to see, and they get a couple of choices that they wouldn't normally get if they were using the chat features. So I'm going to go ahead and click this link here just so you guys can see it and open another tab, and you'll see this is what the students would see whenever they open this link. Okay, so the student can go in here and ask a question, and they can share this information with you. Okay, so also notice, just be aware, because this is kind of a sticky widget. You'll notice that they can ask questions anonymously. So I would say use this tool, understanding that there could be some risk involved with kids posting inappropriate content. You know your audience better than anybody, and if you think somebody couldn't handle this responsibility, you don't necessarily have to use this tool. But this is kind of a nice feature because kids can ask anonymously if they don't want their classmates to know who's asking the question. So just be aware that they can check this, and that their questions could be asked anonymously, and you would not really have any idea who had submitted the question. There's some pros and cons with that. Like I said, for now I'm going to go ahead and choose submit. You can see this pops up. All the kids see this, okay? They also have the ability to upvote or downvote. So if somebody were to ask a question, whether it be as themselves or if they did it anonymously, all their classmates would see this, and if they were struggling as well, they could upvote this, so it's something that you could address at some point during the presentation. Or if you were, if you were just asking a general question during the presentation and you wanted to get feedback, you could use this as well, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of here. Go back over here and show you that Q&A tool again. So this is what you see as the presenter, okay? You can see that right now it shows me that I asked a question. So this could be John Doe. He asked me a question. If this weren't on the screen, if this were on my other screen, it would never be part of my presentation, okay? I could see it over on my other screen. I could know that those questions are being asked, and I could address those at some point during my presentation. But it is relatively out of the way. You don't necessarily see those things within the actual physical presentation you're sharing with your kids, okay? If at any point you just want to turn this off because you feel like maybe somebody's not making great choices, there's just a little toggle switch right here that you can use to turn it off and on, okay? And when you do, you'll see that that banner across the top of your presentation will go off and on as well, okay? All right, so you can see there's some benefit to being able to access that. Okay, just be aware too that as you're using this tool, you do have the ability to navigate your slides right here from this drop down. So if I were presenting my live presentation to my kiddos and I wanted to switch between slides without actually putting my mouse on the screen, you could do that just by selecting the drop down, and it will move to that slide in the presentation. Okay, it also allows you to jump between slides more quickly without having to use the drop down right here on the actual physical screen. So I can go directly from 1 to 3 just by choosing this drop down. All right. Be aware too that your speaker notes are here in the same location. You can see down here in the bottom toolbar, I have my Q&A tool. Right next to that are my notes. These are your speaker notes that I referenced earlier. Okay, so they would be the ones that you type as reminders for yourself to use during the presentation. You can access those right here just by clicking the speaker note tab. And you can see anything that's specific to that slide. So on slide 1, I needed to remember to mention the question and answer tool, the notes tool, the laser pointer, and so on. Okay, so any of those notes I have affiliated with any of my slides would just pop up right here for me to access and see. Again, this would all be off the screen, hidden away, so that students weren't seeing my notes. All right, just like that. Okay, so that is the Q&A tool and also the notes tool. All right, they both work the exact same way. So if I were to click notes, you'll see that pops up as well, and I can flip back and forth between the audience tool and the speaker notes pretty readily. All right, so the next tool we're going to take a look at is the laser pointer. Kind of self-explanatory, but you guys maybe didn't know this exists. In presentation mode, you can choose the pointer option, and it will just give you a little red laser pointer that you can use on your screen as needed. All right. So we're going to take a look at captions next. Captions is pretty cool. Basically, it's an on-screen captioning tool that will put captions on the screen as you're presenting. So if you have something like a headset, and you don't necessarily need to use a headset, but really you would probably get a better quality with captions if you were using something like a headset or an external microphone. But what it basically does is take everything that you say and puts it on the screen as captions. So as an example, I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. And you can see that basically everything I'm saying right now is showing up at the bottom of the screen as physical captions for my students to see. Okay, so there's some obvious benefits here. The main ones being that it could definitely help any students who had a hearing impairment, but a lot of research shows that kids do prefer to have captions in place on any type of video recording that they're watching. So I would think that would be true for a Google Meet as well. Also, an added benefit is that if you are recording your Google Meet, and we're going to touch on that in just a little bit later in the course, you would be able to have this as part of your video capture as well. All right, so we're going to go ahead and turn that back off. Okay, so that covers most of the major tools I wanted to show you in presentation mode. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of here to cover the next two things I want to share with you. So one of the tips and tricks I wanted to show you guys is how you compare video links with embedded video content and use those links to share tabs during your presentation. Okay, I will also show you guys how you can take your presentation and publish it to the web so that students can use it in what's called a kiosk mode. All right, so this next thing I'm going to show you is really just a best practice. Anytime that you guys are inserting any sort of video content directly into your presentation, and I'm just going to go to Insert, I'm going to choose Video, I'm going to YouTube something I created. All right, I'm going to go ahead and select that video and insert it. All right, whenever I inserted my video, the format options automatically came up. If they don't for you, you'll see that there's a button right here. And the important thing is you had to make sure that you had that video selected. Choose format options. You will see this view when it opens. So again, I'm going to click those three dots, share, copy that link, just so I have it in my clipboard. And then you could do something like this. I can go to Insert. I'm going to search for an image on the web, and I'm just going to search for a button. And this is just going to be for me to use during the presentation with my students. So for now, I'll just select this one. It's going to come in really big. I'm going to resize that. And I can have it really any place on the screen that I want to in order to access it. So you can put it down in the corner if you want to, for example. Okay. With that button selected, I'm just going to go up here and use the linking tool to insert link, paste the direct link to my presentation right down there, so that when I click the button while I'm in presenting mode, or if I click this button, it will open a new tab where my video lives for me to share with my students. Okay. All right, and so the reason that you're going to have that button there is so that when you're doing something like presenting from your Meet, so let me go ahead and go to my Meet here really quick. I'm going to go ahead and share my entire screen so that my presentation is up on the screen. Okay, and right now I would be presenting everything on the screen to my kids. So if I were in presentation mode with my kiddos and I were showing them my presentation, you'll see that button is just down there in the right hand corner, and when I select it, it's going to open up a new tab. Okay, so the important thing to know, and this will be a little more fluid for you guys, part of this is because I'm capturing this with screen capturing software as I'm showing it to you, but this tab would open up within your browser during your meeting. Okay, so if you're going to be using a video with your kids and it's part of your presentation, you're putting this button here so that when you click it, it opens that video in a new tab. So here it is ready to go. In the Meet environment, you've probably done some presenting before. You'll see that I can present my entire screen to show everything that's happening on my screen. And when I do that, you'll see I can select either of the two screens I have in my office. If you're in your classroom, you may get three choices. You may get your laptop, you may get your monitor, and you may also get a third option for your projector. So be aware that you might get more than one option, but effectively this lets you choose between which screens you want to present to your student. When I choose present this time, when I hit present now, if you're using video, the best way to present that or share that with your kiddos is using this option right here. I went to present now, I went to a Chrome tab. When I select that, you'll see it shows all the tabs that are currently open in my browser. I'm going to choose this option for Google Jamboard for Remote Teaching. That's that tab right there. I hit share. Oh, by the way, there's a little share audio option right down here. You want to make sure that that's checked. And I'm going to go ahead and choose share. When I do that, it's going to bring me right to this tab, and you can see that it says I'm sharing this tab to meet.google.com. Okay, at any point I want to stop that, I just hit the stop button right here. But when I begin playing my video, okay, my kids get to see that video, they get to hear it. They're basically seeing this window, and this is absolutely the best way to present video content within Google Meet environment. Okay, so be aware that you can expand and go to full screen right down here in the corner. All right, and you can start playing your video. And this is actively being shared with my students. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit stop now and go ahead and go back to our regularly scheduled presentation. So hopefully that made sense. Effectively, what it boils down to is that anytime you're using a video within your presentation, you're better served to have a link available to that video as well, so that you can use that present tab option within Google Meet. All right. So the final thing that I'm going to share with you guys today in terms of presenting with Google Slides is using what's called Publish to Web. So Publish to Web basically allows you to take your presentation and put it into a kiosk mode, so that all you have to do is share a link with your students, and when the students select the link, they're automatically taken to a kiosk view of that presentation. They would not see the actual editable version of your presentation like you're seeing on mine right now. So the way that you do that is right over here underneath File, you will see that there is an option for Publish to the Web. Okay, and when I do that, I'm taken to this window right here. You get a couple of different choices. Notice that you can auto advance your slides. If you want to, you can have it change and move through your presentation automatically. Generally speaking, I don't put those pieces into place. I just want my students to be able to click through the presentation at their own pace. Okay, you'll see that I'm provided with a link right here. This link is the one that you're going to share with your students. Okay, and when you do that, you can see it's going to look something like this. So I'm going to go ahead and open another tab, paste in that link, and just go to the presentation. So you'll see it's like this. So rather than having an editable version of my slide presentation, you can see that they're going to be able to just click through and move through the presentation. All right, so pretty basic. Very, very simple to use, right? So if you want to step that up just a little bit and make it a little more sophisticated, this is just kind of an added perk for something you could do to make things more interesting, is you do have the ability to add voice narration and even music to your web-based version or your published version of your presentation, so that when the kids click through it, they can hear your voice narration and they can also hear any music that you want to drop into the presentation. So the way that you're going to do that, and here's the important thing, within Slides, there is no actual media recorder. So if you were going to narrate your presentation, you would have to use something like Audacity, which you guys all have on your computers. It's right here. It's an audio recording program to capture your voice. And when you do that, you can export those audio files in pieces for each slide. Okay, I've already done that ahead of time, so I'm going to go ahead and choose Insert, Audio. Okay, when I do that, you can see it's going to come to my drive. Any audio files that I have in my drive will automatically become available to me in this view. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of music in. I'm going to hit select that first. Okay, and you'll see that it drops the little icon. When I did that, you'll notice my format options for audio automatically opened up. You can move between opening and closing them. If you close it, all you have to do is highlight that little audio icon, choose the format options, and it will open it right back up. Okay, so I'm going to make a couple of changes here. I'm going to say that I want this to start automatically whenever my students begin watching the presentation. I'm going to turn my volume to around 25% for my music, maybe even lower. I'm going to go down to 15%. And I'm going to tell it to loop the audio throughout the entire presentation. I'm also going to tell it to hide the icon when it's being presented, and I'm going to remove the check mark here where it says stop on the slide change. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close that one down. So now you can see when I go to my web-based presentation. Hopefully you guys can hear that. If you can't, it is actually playing music. All right. So we're going to go one step further. This time I'm going to insert an audio narration that I had created earlier. So I'm going to go back to Insert, choose Audio. I'm going to go to my recent files because I just recently put it into my drive. And you can see here's my ITS intro. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select that one as well. You can see it's right here. I like to pull mine over to the side just so they're out of the way, but they're out of the way for other people, but I can quickly access them. So this is my narrated audio, and this is my music that I just put in earlier. All right, so I'm going to go to this narrated audio. I'm going to have it also start automatically. I'm going to increase the volume on that one to about 75%. Again, hide icon when presenting. This time I don't want it to loop. I don't want it to continue throughout the entire presentation. So I'm going to leave this unchecked, and instead I'm going to make sure stop on slide change is checked. Okay, So let me take a look at these levels really quick again. Make sure my music's at about 15%. My audio's at about 75%. And this time, when my kids open the link for my presentation, testing, 1, 2, 3. This is Jeff Blankenship with HEB Instructional Technology. All right, so you guys get the basic idea. I would probably adjust that a little bit better so where the music wasn't quite so overwhelming, but I just wanted to let you guys see this too. The nice part about doing the publish to web option is literally this link can live anywhere. Okay, so you can share it with your students while you're presenting through Google Meet. You could also post this into a Canvas class or a Google Classroom, and the students would have access to that presentation as well. All right, so you have learned a lot of things in a very short period of time. So if you do want to use any of these tools during your presentations through Meet and you're feeling a little confused or maybe like that was a lot of information, you can always come back to this presentation. It's going to be living here available to you in this website for quite some time. But you can also contact your instructional technology specialist for any assistance or any questions that you might have. All right, you guys have a great day.